Okay, let's see. Let's see what we're working with. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for listening. I am your host, Nelson E. Brown, and welcome to another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome God Radio. Today is September 21st, 2021. It's 6 p.m. And I'm so glad that you all had the opportunity to come and watch my show once again. And it's been a really, really amazing journey thus far. Um, I'm very excited about the fact that tomorrow is the first day of fall, officially, for the 2021 year. And everybody's getting into the fall spirit, and everybody is getting accustomed to wearing jackets again and wearing thermals and everybody's preparing for that shift that we're about to make for the fall season. Everybody's getting into that spirit, and I can feel it myself that it's about to happen. So tomorrow again is the first official day of the fall season. So everybody's very anxious to grab their coats, their jackets, and their scarves, and they're willing to embrace the new season that's about to come upon us. But this evening, I am scheduled to have the state senator, the Maryland state senator, Miss Jill P. Carter, with us this evening to talk about the work that she does for her district in the city of Baltimore within the Maryland State Senate. So she's supposed to be with us from 6:30 to 7 p.m. this evening on the show tonight to talk about her work in that arena. But for now, I'm going to spend a little bit of the first half of the show talking about the virtual learning environment and how everybody, including myself, how we all have been adapting to the new norm, so to speak, and how we all have been adapting to the changes that have taken place since the start of the pandemic, and since all of us are still trying to navigate our way through the pandemic in the virtual learning environment. I know for a lot of students, whether they're in pre-K or whether they're in college, a lot of students have made attempts to adapt to the virtual learning environment, and a lot of students have re-entered the classroom after being so accustomed to the virtual learning environment or even the hybrid learning environment for the past 18 months or so. But I wanted to read a little bit about that. But first, I want to share a couple of poems with you guys since we're all getting into the fall spirit and since we're all making that shift between seasons. I just wanted to share some poems with you guys about fall and what that means. So I'm going to read a couple of poems and I'm going to make a shift from that. So I can definitely see that a lot of people, again, they're getting into the fall spirit and they are becoming more accustomed to getting right back into the swing of things in terms of being accustomed to the virtual learning environment. As for me, this is my first time back for an in-person class since the beginning of the pandemic. You all know, as I said before, I am a UMBC student, so I study sociology. So I've been so accustomed to just having meetings and orchestrating group sessions with my classmates through the computer. I've become so accustomed to that. It's best to be face to face with people, but of course, we all still have to follow the rules, and we still have to navigate our way through things. All of us, we're still in the process of learning and growing and maturing as young adults, not just as UMBC students, but a lot of my college classmates and a lot of my peers, a lot of us have gone through similar struggles throughout the pandemic. But since she's here now, I'm going to add her to the stream. I want to welcome to the show the Maryland State Senator, Ms. Jill P. Carter. I'm very happy that she took some time out of her busy schedule to come and join me this evening to talk about the work that she does in the Maryland State Senate and what life has been like since the beginning of the pandemic. I've had Ms. Carter, thanks again for being a part of this show and a part of this broadcast. I've talked to several of your colleagues throughout the course of the pandemic, and several of them have been featured on this platform, and I've learned a lot about what you all do and the sacrifices you guys make each and every day for the constituents, for the men, women, and children that live in your districts. So I just wanted to take the time to just thank you for being a part of my broadcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Yes, yes, you're welcome. Absolutely. So, I had some questions for you. Since you're here, I'm just going to jump right into it. I was going to read a little bit about the virtual learning environment and how that has had an impact on the children now, because many of our kids have re-entered. We've gone back to the in-person style for classroom learning. So a lot of parents and a lot of students have um, are trying to get back into the swing of things and trying to become more accustomed to working in person now. Some people are still teleworking. Some students are still in the virtual learning space. But I often think about the how much kids have gone through during the course of the pandemic, not being able to see their friends, not being able to socialize with their classmates, and even parents trying to juggle, work and that working life versus the home life. So I just wanted to, I did have a list of questions to ask you. So I did want to learn a little bit about the work that you do in the Maryland State Senate, but I still wanted to learn a little bit about like what life has been like in terms of the work that you do for the Maryland State Senate. What kind of changes have you made throughout the course of the pandemic to make yourself as flexible as possible with the work that you do every day?
Again, thank you for having me. And um, so I've been around for a long time. I've only been in the Senate for 3 years, but I was in the House of Delegates for many years. So let me just set a few things straight for the record. And I don't know who you've had on the show, but the senators actually absolutely work much harder than the members of the House of Delegates. I'm sort of joking. I'm joking, but there is some validity to the fact that there's one of us and there's a lot of committees, councils, commissions, work groups, and task forces that we all have to be spread around to serve on. And there's less of us. So naturally, we serve on a lot more. So that I would say that our work during the interim is a little bit more intensive than some of the members of the House of Delegates. So that's one thing. And then with the pandemic and everything being virtual, I can say that I've really experienced since the beginning of the pandemic what is very much akin to being a 24/7 public servant because we've allowed or I've allowed access to myself virtually all the time, meaning I give my cell number out all the time publicly. People are able to text me and call me. I've found there's an expectation, even if we have staffs that work certain hours, that if people send an email, they expect an answer immediately. We don't always, live up to that, but we do the best we can. But my point is that the very nature of our work has changed. When I was in the House of Delegates many years ago, my life was sort of like for 90 days, I gave 100% of myself. And for the rest of the year, I was free to practice law, live my life, and then, go to a couple of community events or meetings a week. But that's pretty much how it went. You work your butt off in the session, but then the rest of the time, you do still have connection with community, but you're not really working all the time. That has completely changed. So my thought is that the very nature of our work in terms of being thought of as a part-time legislature, I believe that has substantially changed, and we're not really we are in session for 90 days, and that's part-time. But I think that the expectation and our availability is now full-time 24/7.
Yes, I can definitely imagine how things have been for you, throughout the course of the 18 months or so that we've been a part of the pandemic. And I think that it's really cool that you make yourself accessible, all the time. Whether they want to call you, video chat, just because a lot of people think that they are in this fight alone, and it's great to know that public officials like yourself are there for them to support them and to uplift them in their time of need. So, what made you want to serve in the Maryland State Senate after being a part of the Maryland House of Delegates for so long? So, what led you to that shift? Um,
So I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm not sure who the audience is, but for audience out there, thank you for listening and engaging with us tonight. I am different. Everybody says they're different, but there's a few things that really do make me a little bit different. I would characterize myself as a bit of a reluctant legislator, a little bit of a reluctant politician, meaning that I'm not a person that had like this deep desire all my life to be a public servant or public official or elected official. I kind of fell into the House of Delegates by accident. Wasn't a plan. Other people pushed me to do it. For many years, I served in the House of Delegates. I was the only Black woman attorney um, there and on the House Judiciary Committee. And I think it's very important to say, so I say it all the time now. Didn't used to talk about it that much. Now there's tons of them. But from 2003 to 2016, which is when I was in the House of Delegates, I was the only one for a good part of that time. Now, so I stepped down from the House of Delegates in 2016. And the reason I ran for Senate is because people, again, this just like before, asked me to run. It was not something I initially wanted to do at all. I had had my fill of politics and the legislature, and I was ready to move on to stuff that I thought I could be more effective with. But the senator in my district was indicted and ultimately convicted for bribery. And there were people in the community that reached out and said that I kind of had to run. There was a challenger to the seat. He happened to have been what some might describe as a carpetbagger who moved into the district just because of perceived weakness to run for the Senate. And many didn't think that that person was qualified and they wanted to see me do it. And so, really, I don't want to talk forever. I know I can be long winded, as most of us can. I'm a lawyer and a politician, so we talk. Um, Here's the important thing, though. I didn't initially want to run for the Senate. When I found myself in a race that was competitive and it was full of many, many personal and racist attacks, and I would say misogynist attacks, my race was, I was very, very unhappy that I was running. But since I've been in the Senate, we've been able to accomplish major strides that I pushed for in the House of Delegates, but um, they weren't ready for them yet. The leadership wasn't ready. The Democratic Party wasn't ready, and so many of them were on hold. And so now since I've been there, we've passed some major reforms when it comes to you brought up the virtual learning. The Maryland's future, the blueprint for Maryland's future, the education legislation, which addresses a lot of those issues with the virtual learning and the need to find children where they are and give them extra attention where they need it, and to create Wi-Fi where it's not available in state, like so many other things, so many things, pre-K, universal pre-K, all of that. But mostly we were able to do the police reform that I worked for a long time. And in fact, my resignation from the House of Delegates in 2016 was personal. It was because I didn't feel that the Maryland General Assembly recognized my humanity or the humanity of Black people. Because for many years, even before Freddie Gray, we had had multiple families come to Annapolis to plead their cases about their abuses at the hands of law enforcement, the killing of their children by law enforcement, and the Maryland General Assembly ignored them. And so for that was a primary reason for me why I decided to resign. I didn't feel that it was the right place for me to continue to serve.
yes, absolutely, and I can definitely understand what you mean when you say that you felt as though your voice wasn't being heard the way you felt as though it should have been while you were serving in the Maryland House of Delegates, and you are now in the position where you can make more of an impact in the Maryland State Senate, and where you feel as though you are now represented by many people of color and also many women from your position as well. I was going to ask, and I've asked several of your colleagues the same question, throughout the course of the time they've been on my show, throughout the course of the year that I've been doing this broadcast. So what are some of the things that you've accomplished this year? I mean, we're entering to the last quarter of the year, so we only have a few more months left before the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022. So what are some of the things that have been able to accomplish in the midst of the pandemic and all of the obstacles that we've all have been hit with?
Well, thank you for that question. So I'm going to talk, you know, in the midst of the pandemic, I think the greatest accomplishment has been able to stay connected. I mean, nobody's perfect. There hasn't been a perfect scenario, but through virtual town halls and lots of emails, we've been able to stay connected with constituents. Been able to secure continued food services throughout our district and for many programs, even now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and try to ensure that even after the recovery period is considered to be finished, that we don't stop providing the food services to the people that need them throughout our district. I think that is critically important, and it's one of the eye opener. A lot of things don't surprise me. I'm not a person that's usually surprised by hardship, poverty, or those kinds of things because I deem myself pretty aware of the gravity of the problem. But the pandemic did open my eyes to the number of people that were hungry in our district and the number of families that were hungry. And the reason is that every single day in different food services program in this one little teeny district in the part of the city, in the city, within the city, we have thousands of people that are still partaking of these free food services every single day. I find that amazing, and so we can't afford to stop it. So that's pandemic talk. We also passed a lot of legislation, I think, and we have a lot more that we're going to do because we were able to get money from the federal government in mass and in ways that we haven't ever had it before and may never have it again, at least in my service time. And so, one of the things that I'm absolutely most excited about is this money that is coming in that gives neighborhoods and communities an opportunity to upgrade their infrastructure, upgrade their communities. That is critical, and it's a one-time shot. And so I'm anxious and looking forward to continuing to work with our communities to make that happen. Um, but outside of the pandemic, um, I feel that my time in the Senate, and this is the part where it's like you ask these questions, and then we're in a position. It's like I've never been one that likes to boast about like my accomplishments, but I think it's important because they are when they are serving people and making a difference in reforms that are going to hopefully make people's lives better. That does matter, and so. I mean, I think my biggest bill that got like a lot of attention and acclaim in the time I've been in the Senate was my bill for University of Maryland medical system, which reformed the system, but also gave rise to all of the coverage on Mayor Catherine Pugh and Healthy Holly and how the board had purchased her books and a whole bunch of other things. And that became a big, huge thing. And people were like, giving me a lot of credit for reforming the system. I want to make it clear. We passed some reforms, but in my opinion, we didn't go far enough, and we still have more that should be done. And Catherine Pugh should have never been the only scapegoat in that whole scenario. And I feel that something was accomplished, but more should be accomplished. I think some other legislation I'm super happy about is legislation for banning the box for private employers in the state. That was one of many, many bills that we had to override a Hogan veto. I think I counted, and I'm not going to remember them all now. I think I counted about 6 bills I've passed in the last couple of years that were passed, vetoed, and then we had to override them. And then this past session, I mean, absolutely, I was one of the leaders to shepherd the police reforms through. And one of my bills, that's a very, very important bill in the package, is Anton's law, named after Anton Black, who was killed by police in Greensboro, Maryland. And that law goes into effect August 1st. And what that law does is it opens up police disciplinary records for public disclosure. And we all know that we have been in the dark about what actions and what misconduct actions police have because we've never been able to have exposure to those records.
Yes, it's wonderful that you still maintain a really, really productive, schedule in the midst of the pandemic, and it hasn't stopped you from fighting for what you believe in and fighting for what you believe is right. And that's something that a lot of people don't have the courage to do. And it's great that you have the courage to do that, and that you have the courage to stand firm on what you believe, and you persevere through all of the obstacles. One of the questions that I also wanted to ask, because I'm a college student myself. I'm a senior, so I'm a senior in college. I go to UMBC, so I study sociology. So I know a lot of my classmates there are different dimensions of sociology that many of us are pursuing. I myself, I'm pursuing a career in the healthcare industry, so I'm studying more so to learn about the social dimensions of health, while other people are they want to get into politics, and they some of them do want to become lawyers. And I know some people personally. I know some people. One of my cousins, she's studying to become a lawyer herself. So, what advice would you give to young people who want to pursue what you're pursuing? Because a lot of people don't really understand how much how many sacrifices you have to make, because a lot of people just look at the publicity and everything. They just look at the fact that you have they focus more on you having the status or the recognition versus what really goes on behind the scenes, in terms of what the work that it takes in order to make these things happen. So I know that a lot of, like I said, for a lot of young people, myself, a lot of people need to hear this, because a lot of my peers are pursuing careers in law and in politics. And like even with me in the healthcare industry, I was actually speaking to a lawyer myself, and he said that you should be a lawyer. You can study healthcare law, and I said I don't. I never that never crossed my mind. So, what advice would you give to young people who are pursuing what you're pursuing and what you have pursued? Um, in the work that you do.
So I don't think that so first of all, you should be a lawyer, because I think everybody should be a lawyer, because I think it's a unfortunately it's a training that really comes in handy in life, whether you decide to practice or not. It's a way of thinking logically and through situations, and seeing all sides of situations, and objective reasoning that I really think does come in handy in everything. And let me also say, it's come in handy for my career in the legislature. I have a lot of respect for the way that lawyers think, because I believe that we are able to look at situations, entertain consequences, unintended consequences, and take out the emotionalism that unfortunately does drive a lot of legislation from some of our colleagues. Not that we're not emotional, but I don't think we are primarily operating off of emotion and reaction. I think we are more logical, and I think that is a benefit. Everybody doesn't think that's a benefit. I think it's a benefit. Let me also say that I want to say condolences to you, because you're losing the incredible Dr. Freeman Hrabowski, who is an icon of our life and our planet, and I absolutely love him. When I was very young, I interviewed him, and I was just a little teeny person, a journalism, still in college, and I worked for the Afro American, and I had the opportunity to interview him, and I've had a great deal of respect for him since then. Also, my father, who was a civil rights leader named Walter P. Carter, was a MS, a Master's of Sociology, and so it's near and dear to my heart. My father used to practice civil rights as a method of practice. I think is the way he termed it. I think you said it a different and better way, more accurate. But civil rights as a part of practicing sociology, you can't practice sociology unless you are dealing with equity, racism, racial trauma, all of those things. Um, so that being said, every person should go to law school that wants to, or that is able to, because it gives you an educational foundation that will help you in anything that you do. In addition to that, it gives you a presumption of correctness, that I believe is really important, especially for those of us that are often ignored, dismissed, devalidated, in professional arenas. Um, I think it's been a tremendous help to me. I know it has been a tremendous help for my confidence when people are in opposition to me, and politically, and when I'm very confident in my ability to connect the facts, the data, and stand on principle and fight for what is right, and recognize that I'm on the side of right, even when other people are not there. I think law school helped me with all of that, but definitely with my confidence, which has carried me a very long way. And when people give me credit for things like, standing strong, being a pit bull on issues, having principles, I mean, a lot of it really does have to do with the fact that I have the confidence to stand on principle, even in the face of opposition. And I may not really have this capability if I didn't, if I were not a lawyer. So that's important.
Yes, and that was very insightful, and it's great to hear that, because, like I said before, like a lot of young people like myself and a lot of my peers and I, we a lot of the sociology majors at UMBC, we're all, we all are pursuing different dimensions of sociology because we learn, like I've taken courses about marriage and family, social stratification, race and ethnic minorities, and the sociology of education. So, and also medical sociology. So I've dived into several different dimensions already. And when I was speaking to an attorney, he said that I already have the foundation of sociology because I've studied different dimensions. So, and he said that the next step is to just for you to just go to law school because you already have the foundations and you've already learned about that. And I told him that because I told him that I was pursuing a career in the healthcare industry and I'm very knowledgeable about the field of public health, and I do have peers that are pursuing a career in politics and in law and everything. So that's why it's great to have someone on the show like this, like yourself, because a lot of people again don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know the work that you have to put in. They don't understand that how much work and sacrifices you have to make in order to make these things come to fruition. So I was going to ask, do you have any plans on your agenda? I know you talked about all of the pieces of legislation that you've been able to pass and all of the accomplishments you've made this year. So what is on your agenda for 2022, since we're entering into the last quarter of this year?
So, well, there will be a number of bills, but I think the big ticket item is the recreational legalization of adult use marijuana, and of course, at the forefront of that is ensuring the criminal justice reform that is needed. And I'll explain briefly what I mean by that and what other people mean when they talk about that. Is the fact that we've had many people that have had criminal records, serving criminal sentences, prison sentences, on parole and probation for marijuana offenses, whether it be marijuana possession or whether it be marijuana distribution. And now we're about to open it up for capitalism, for the industries to do it legally. And it's critically important that we vacate the sentences, convictions, and sentences for people. 96% of this number is a little off because this is for Baltimore, but it's not that different across the rest of the state. 96% of all marijuana convictions in Baltimore have been Black people. It is a little less than that number across the state, but not that much. Um, we have had information for decades now that Black people and white people use marijuana and other drugs at about the same rate, but you have 96% of the people that are arrested and convicted in the criminal justice system being Black. That's a huge disparity that has to be repaired. Damage caused has to be repaired, and it can be repaired in a number of ways. One, to get rid of the conviction, get rid of the sentence, let anybody out that's actually serving a sentence. Someone that's been harmed because of an enhanced penalty for a crime because they had a prior marijuana conviction. It gets a little complicated. We have to look at all of this and figure out how to right the wrongs and repair the damage. Then we have to make sure that we provide legal opportunities for people that have been in the illegal drug trade and that have been foreclosed from opportunities in the state that are primarily Black people. We have to make sure that we target them, we educate them, and provide a pathway for them to benefit from this industry. And then finally, we need to make sure that when it comes to the revenues coming in from the taxation and regulation by the state, that we have a large portion of that money that is targeted to Black communities, Black and brown communities, impoverished communities, but any place, the zip codes where the drug war did the most damage, that is where we need to make sure resources are infused into those communities. And I think that's one of the biggest ticket items of the session. Another huge item for the session for me personally is getting rid of the automatic charging of children as adults, juvenile justice reform, and ending felony murder for children. So those things I think are critically important. I'm happy to elaborate, but basically in Maryland, only in one area of the law did we say you're not a child anymore. When it comes to you want to drive, you want to vote, you want to do certain things, you got to be a certain age. But when it comes to we could put you in jail for the rest of your life because of an act you commit that we deem to be a crime that should be charged automatically as adult. That's where we draw the line, and we treat children as adults. And of course, those children that we treat as adults are disproportionately Black. And so there's been all kinds of brain science over the years. Even the Supreme Court has made rulings that children are not adults. children shouldn't be treated as adults, and that the brain is simply not developed enough for us to hold children acts committed by children to the same standard as if they were as if they had been committed by an adult. So that's a critical part. Sorry if I'm sort of stuttering. I'm trying to get it all out because I'm not trying to take up too much of your time. I'm just trying to like hit it. So marijuana reform and juvenile justice reform are at the forefront of my agenda.
Yes, and I do appreciate that. And you're not taking up any of my time at all. I like the fact that you're elaborating because a lot of people don't really understand what these issues are and how to solve them. So it's great that you're able to elaborate on those because a lot of people don't know how to a lot of people don't really comprehend this well, and a lot of people fail to do their research about like some of these issues that are on the table for you guys to figure out. And some of these issues are the same issues that I studied in some of my previous classes that I took, my sociology courses that I took, as it pertains to criminology, juvenile justice, and different things that you just named, different areas, issues that you just named. I had a chance to study it myself, and I always try to encourage people to research the facts because oftentimes we become very passionate about things, but we don't really know everything about it before we know what we're fighting for or against. So it's really really nice that you were able to elaborate on that. And I also wanted to ask about your district. So I'm not too familiar with the district that you represent. So could you tell us a little bit about the district that you represent? Because I don't live in Baltimore City. I'm a Baltimore County guy, but I do know a lot of people who live in the city, who work in the city, and who spend a lot of time in the city. So I'm learning more and more, even through my studies at UMBC as a sociology student, more and more about the city of Baltimore. I've learned the most about it within the last few years since I've been studying sociology. So, what is your district like?
My district. I'm sorry. I thought I had my phone on. Is that me? Sorry about that. I don't understand what's going on. So I literally have my phone on silence and do not disturb. I don't know what's going on. So check this out. I apologize about that. I don't understand. I have my phone on silent and do not disturb.
It's okay.
So it
It's
must be
okay.
connected up with the cloud, or I don't know, something that was connecting into the transmission. I don't know. It's crazy, right? So like,
Yeah.
can I just say that's an example of something that really frustrates me because I am always available and people will just call. And it's like if you call someone and they don't answer the phone, you can always text. You don't have to keep calling.
Yeah.
Promise you, as soon as I'm free, I'm gonna respond, and it's much easier to respond to a text message than a phone call. Like listen to a voice message. It's kind of interesting. I don't understand why people aren't texting more in this day and age. I know your generation tends to text more. My generation, older people, they just want to always call, and it is really not the most effective way to communicate. But back to what you were talking about, and I apologize. Now, what were we? I forgot.
Well, I was making a reference. I was asking about
Oh,
your
my
district.
district. Okay,
Yes.
so my district is it. I used to really characterize it as Northwest Baltimore, but that's not really accurate. It's a large chunk of Northwest Baltimore, but it actually slides down into Southwest, but it's all on the west side. So if you only know Baltimore in terms of the harbor, nope, that's not us. If you know Baltimore in terms of like Fells Point, Canton Harbor East, none of that's us. What is my district? It is areas such as Park Heights, Pimlico, like where the Preakness is. It is a neighborhood called Mount Washington, Roland Park. Those are the richer parts. It is also the beautiful middle class black neighborhoods like where I grew up: Ashburton, Forest Park, Howard Park, and Garrison, Liberty Heights, Gwen Oak, and then where I live now, Edmondson Village, Hunting Ridge. Those are the general neighborhoods, and it goes down to a neighborhood like Irvington Beachfield, that are sort of south of Edmondson Village. And then, of course, we're about to do redistricting, and it's going to change a little bit. But the unique things about my district, it's completely diverse in terms of race and economics, and even religion, because we have the largest contingency of Orthodox Jewish people in the city, in the state, in my district. And so that's significant. We also have it is also the distinction of being the largest majority black district in the city of Baltimore.
Yes, yes, and
I'm
I'm
not
familiar
the
with.
largest, like they're all the same size. I'm sorry. It has this is the good news about my district. It has the highest volume of voters of any majority black district in the city. That is what I should have said.
Yes, I understand, and I've driven through those neighborhoods, all of the neighborhoods that you just named. I've driven through all of them. I know people who live and who attended school in those areas and who work in those areas, so I'm very familiar with all of the neighborhoods that you just mentioned. And a lot of people are name dropping the neighborhoods that they're from, in those areas that you just mentioned, and it's really really great to see such a diverse set of people that you represent in your district, and how many people you get to meet on a daily basis. You get to meet everybody and new people all the time. All of your constituents who know who you are. You're able to see them, and you're able to talk to them and have conversations with them and figure out what their needs are. And it's best to have that one-on-one connection with the voters and your constituents that you represent, because a lot of people are, like I said before, they're scared to address their needs because they feel like their voices don't matter, and you create that safe haven for a lot of your constituents so that they can come to you, and address your concerns, whoever that was. um, Whoever that was.
We try, but the diversity of this district, I mean, we have from the one extreme of no matter what you do, the people who are saying to you when they see you, you haven't done anything for us, our neighborhood is a disaster, it's all your fault, to the people that are still kind of wealthy and self-contained in like I'd say the area called Windhurst, which is northern part of Roland Park, whose attitude is generally like, we love you, um, everything's fine, we can pay for anything we need, just do us a favor and just don't give us too many problems. Like don't infect us with too many other problems that happen in other areas. I'm just I'm kind of giving you that's the mentality, and it really is. Like some people are like, no matter what you do, it's never enough. And then there's others that are doing so well that their attitude is like, we're good, just don't give us any trouble.
Yes, I mean that's expected. I mean you can't. It's impossible to please everybody. So you can't please everybody, but it's great to know that you are still making a difference when people are able to come to you, and who do address their concerns, and you do look into the issues that they are concerned about, and you figure out how to fix them. So there are always going to be people on both sides, like you said. As an author, in addition to being a radio personality, I'm also an author, and I write a lot of books that are geared towards young people and children, and I talk about different subjects like education, for instance. What are your hopes in terms of us coming out of this pandemic? What are you helping with in terms of like the children in your district, who are going through this remote learning environment, and parents who are still in the middle of trying to juggle between their working life and their home life, dealing with their children and making all of these adjustments? It's been pretty hectic for a lot of people throughout the course of the 18 months. So what are your goals? Because this is going to continue into next year. So what are your goals in terms of how are you going to continue assisting them with these adjustments that they have to make?
So that's a kind of a loaded question. I appreciate the question, but some of the things that I think should happen are not are out of my hands. For example, I think there should still be options for hybrid learning, and not having everyone at school at the same time right now. I think that students, especially younger ones, really do need to be in that environment where they're having personal interaction. But I think that there is something to be said too for the accessibility of virtual learning. I think children and people learn very differently. I'm actually a person who learns better in isolation, and I'm very serious about that. Like I've always like when I'm around students and teachers and all this action in school, I can't focus, I can't concentrate. But when I'm just it's like me and the video, or me and the teacher, I'm much better. So I think we need to understand and take into account that our students all learn very differently and that they have different needs. But I mean, and then there's the stuff that we can and have done legislatively, like with the blueprint for Maryland's future, which is ensuring that there's pre-K accessibility in every single um, area in the city of Baltimore, building back into our educational system the trades, taking into account that all the students are not going to go to college. And then I think also making sure that children are fed with nutritional meals and not just, complete and total junk that makes them tired. I think that another effort, and I'm praying that some of the money that we have now can be used for this, because we've already got the 21st century school plan, which is the school reconstruction, which is building a lot of new schools. And thank God we have a lot of those in my district. But um, in those schools that are still old, as we've seen in the news recently, they don't still have air conditioning that's functioning. They have their HVAC systems are disgusting. They have mold, they have asbestos, they have lead in the water. And so some of this money has got to be used to clean that up. We've got children. We talk about climate change and how the planet's dying, but let's be clear, it's absurd that we have children going into schools with lead, mold, asbestos, filth, and restrooms that aren't functioning, and kitchens in schools, cafeterias that have lead water. These are all immediate needs that should have been addressed a long time ago, and they still have to be at the forefront of our plans, and they are. We absolutely, I think, will have money to address these issues. Just the issue is making sure that it goes where it needs to go, and that the school system and everyone else is on the same page with the priorities.
Yes, and it's interesting that you bring that up. I worked under the lead poisoning prevention program as a part of my internship in high school and earlier on in college, from 2016 to last year, under the lead poisoning prevention program at the Maryland Department of the Environment. So I'm very familiar with everything that you just laid out on the table in terms of, you know, understanding what lead poisoning prevention is and how to solve that problem. So I know people, I've gained knowledge myself, but I know people who work in that field and who understand what that looks like and how to fix it. So it's great that all of these issues are still on the table, because we still have room for growth here, and we still have room to figure out what to do next. So it's great that we still have that opportunity to do that. So in the future, so what are your plans in terms of the future? So do you see yourself going above and beyond the Maryland, because you've already served in the House of Delegates, in the Maryland House of Delegates, and you're serving in the Maryland State Senate. So what are your plans moving forward in terms of, going, you know, going above and beyond the General Assembly, the Maryland General Assembly? Where do you see yourself, like 5 years from now, at least?
Well, some people may know, and others don't, that when our great former Congressman Elijah Cummings abruptly passed away, it created an opening for a seat, and there was a special election. And I was actually one of 24 Democrats that ran in that special election in February of 2020. And I did actually come in second in Baltimore City and third in the whole state. Not bad for one of 24 and a person that only had about $50,000. I was up against an iconic name in the person of Kwesi Mfume, who won by a landslide. Really, he really, even the other person that came in third, Congressman Cummings' wife, Maya Cummings, we both did about the same, very similar numbers, but he was way ahead of us. Should he choose to leave office again or go to the Senate or run for something else, I really feel strongly that that is a better seat for me. I feel prepared for it, ready for it, energized to do it. I feel like we need people in Congress that are going to be strong, strong voices for our communities, and not just a rubber stamp for whatever the leadership wants to do. And too often Democrats get in all of these environments, and Republicans, but we have a Democrat-led state legislative body, and we have only one Republican in our congressional delegation. So I'm talking about Democrats because that's what we have. Not that it doesn't pertain to other parties as well. But anyway, too often people get into the seat and they get into these institutions, and they believe that their responsibility is to be in favor with leadership. And sometimes that is in contrast to them being able to fight vigilantly for our communities. And I really feel that that is something I would do if it should come up again. And if it doesn't come up again, I can tell you that while I would love to maybe rise in leadership in the Senate, it's not necessarily something that I have to do. I've been for many years mentoring younger people. I'm not a person that actually sees myself being in political office for the rest of my life. I want to groom, raise, mentor other young people to take these positions and take the ball and run with it. I don't really believe in this whole like lifelong career politicians. I think that we should serve our terms and we should move aside. I don't think that we should be in political offices forever. I just don't. I think not that. So I can honestly tell you, I'm a much better legislator today than I was when I was young and in the House of Delegates. So I got it, but I'm having that time. I'm having that time now where I'm a seasoned legislator and things are going much better for me as a seasoned legislator than they were when I was not one. But I don't need to do it forever. If I groom people to be able to step into my shoes, it won't be necessary for me to stay here forever. Do you see what I'm saying? And let me tell you why it's important. Really quickly. When I was first elected, I was, a lot younger. And all of my advisors, and I want to be clear, I didn't have like major advisors. People in the hood that gave me advice. Now, I didn't have a team of advisors, so to speak, that were like paid to advise me. But my elders would tell me, and the people that were politically astute would tell me, don't waste my time talking to young people. And they met people my age and younger. And the reason is because they knew that traditionally young people simply didn't vote. Now, since that time, and I used to say, but I want to be the one to inspire them to vote because they're my peeps. Like, I think I can get them to vote. They were like, you worry about that after you're elected. But since those days, you've had the election of Barack Obama, and you've had some younger people like in Baltimore, now with the person of Brandon Scott, and you've got a younger Senate president now. These people are all under 40, Brandon Scott, Bill Ferguson, and many other of the legislators, as I was at the time that I first ran for office. I think that is important because we can no longer depend on the elders of our community to hold it down for us in terms of vote. It is really important that young people educate themselves and that we educate them as much as possible about politics and about the impact they can have. I really truly believe that there is still this mentality that politics is like some giant living in the sky, and yeah, I might vote, but I'm never really going to change anything. I think we have to be better educated to understand that the power rests with us, the people, and we can govern the politics of our community by who we put in the seats and who we don't. There's still way too much focus on president, and vice president and Congress and U.S. Senate. Way too little focus on your state representatives and your city council and county council representatives. We actually do more that affects your everyday lives for the most part than any of those other people do. We control the criminal justice system here in Maryland. We control the educational system here in Maryland. It is our policies and our resources that govern those entities. And we control the lead poisoning issue. So my point is that I don't know why this is, but it's got to change. People have got to stop only focusing on what Biden is doing and only what Kamala is doing and only what Barack was doing, and focus on what Jill Carter is doing, focus on what Antonio Hayes is doing, focus on what Corey McCray is doing. What we are doing is probably having a greater impact in your daily lives than what those people on national level are doing on a daily basis.
Yes, absolutely. And you made great points. And I was actually having a conversation with one of my mentors, as well. I have, because of my internship at the Maryland Department of the Environment, I had that for 4 years. And I have mentors, as professors, in college. And they talk to us about how important it is for them to, groom us and prepare us for the future, and especially in positions of leadership, because they know that they are going to, no matter how old they are or how old they get or where their position is in life, they're eventually going to have to pass the torch at some point. They're not going to be able to be here forever. So they have to be, they tell us all the time that they have to be open to the fact that one day we're going to pass the torch. The torch is going to be passed to us. They're going to be the ones passing the torch. And we are the ones that are going to have to be ready to solve these problems and to make an impact, and just to build upon, what they've left, you know, it's their job to pass down the knowledge and their wisdom and their expertise, and so that we can be prepared, and so that we won't have to, walk in blindsided. When it comes to being a leader, or understanding what that means or what that looks like. So, like, the points that you just made were really, really imperative, because a lot of people um, just assume that young people don't vote and that their voices don't matter and that they don't care, and we do. But we just want people to care about us. you know so if we see that you care and you genuinely care, then it entices us to care more and to want to be more involved, because a lot of us, a lot of the 90s babies are very passionate about, well, I'm just being biased because I'm one, but I'm a 1989 baby. But a lot of us are very passionate about making a difference and seeing change. And a lot of people don't understand that because they don't have conversations with us, and they don't. We feel as though a lot of them don't. A lot of elderly people, they don't take time out to get to know us and figure out what we like and what we don't like, and what our dreams are and what our aspirations are. So, like you passing the torch and being okay with that and preparing for that is important for older leaders to know, because you can't be here forever. You somebody has to take your spot, whether you like it or not, and whether you're okay with that or not. So it's very insightful for you to say that. So if people want to reach out to you and get in touch with you and learn more about the work that you do in your district, and about you as a public official, what are some of the ways that they can reach out to you directly and connect with you to learn more about what you do, and what you're about?
So I think the best way in terms of social media is to follow me on Twitter, because that's where I'm most active, and my favorite social media outlet is Twitter, because it's short, to the point, and you can tweet at anybody that you want to have engage with you, including media, including other elected officials. So I like Twitter, and I'm simply Jill P. Carter. Jill P. Carter on Twitter. I feel like that's where I tend to voice my very quick opinions and initiatives on a regular basis more than the other ones. I'm also, though, on Facebook, and that's where, I might write, like, a whole bunch of paragraphs about an issue, which is a little bit more elaborate, but I don't think it's quite always as much fun. It's not as fast, but I'm Maryland State Senator Jill P. Carter on Facebook. So you can follow me or like my page on Facebook. It'd be great. Maryland State Senator Jill P. Carter. And of course, when you go to these pages, it'll instruct you how to reach me for any assistance or help from my office. And my office can help you if you're a constituent in my district, or direct you to where you might go to get the help that you need. Or even we give scholarships as well if you live in the district. And so if you live in Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore, you should keep in mind that there's a billion reasons to vote and pay attention to your elected officials. But one of those reasons is that you can get a scholarship from your state senator and your delegates. And one of the first questions that is my agenda is not how good are your grades, what's your attendance, what do you want to be? It's, are you a registered voter? And the reason that's important is you've got to be a registered voter, because if you're asking people that are elected only because of the vote to give you money for your scholarship, you've got to at least be willing to engage in that process to help that person be in office. Because if you don't vote, we wouldn't even be here to give a scholarship. So I think the email for the state is, we all have the same email, but it's long and it's arduous. But it's everybody. So everybody in the whole General Assembly, we have the same beginning, our first name and a dot and our last name. So I'm Jill.Carter, right? Jill.Carter. And then everybody in the Senate has the same one, at senate.state.md.us. Arduous. But if you go to the social media pages, it'll direct you, at the top of the pages in the bio, to how to reach us on, the regular professional email.
Well, yes. Thanks again for providing all of us with that information, and thanks again for taking time out to talk to me this evening. It's been really, really great learning a lot more about you, because I remember when you ran, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I reached out to you directly, because I remember you running earlier last year for the seat, in Congress, and And I've spoken to some of your colleagues as well. I've spoken to a lot of community activists and a lot of people in public office to learn a lot more. And it's not just the city of Baltimore. I'm speaking to people everywhere. I'm educating myself about the issues that matter in other counties and other towns, so that I'm informed, because because I still know that I still know a lot of people who live in those districts and who have have concerns that need to be addressed. Like I said, because of what I study at UMBC and what I'm pursuing my degree in, I know that it's important for me to educate myself on these issues, because I'm going to see them over and over again, in the future in different capacities. So before I let you go, I wanted to just thank you for being a part of my broadcast, and thank you for being a part of my show. So the Beauty in Us Radio is a show. It's been a few weeks ago, I celebrated a year of being a part of this broadcast on Awesome God Radio. So it's a stellar award nominated program. So it's been great to feature many guests like yourself, on this broadcast. And it's just it's a blessing to have this chance, because I never thought I would be speaking to people like yourself on my show. So thanks again, and I'll definitely keep in touch.
I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for everybody that listened, and feel free to reach out. And again, follow me on Twitter. That's the best one. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. And the beauty in us is a wonderful, wonderful concept. And we should also look at our elected officials, that if you put love at the forefront of all of the policy initiatives, it'll guide you in the right direction. Like, what would love do? If I love people, what policy would I create? That's something that's really important.
Yes. And thanks again. And like I said, I'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye bye.
You're welcome. So that wraps up another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome Guy Radio. I'm very happy that you guys had a chance to watch this show and to listen to Senator Carter talk about the work that she does as a Maryland State Senator and as a lawyer, what she's accomplished and what her plans look like for the future. I want to let you all know that Thoughts Magazine, my column in Thoughts Magazine, it was postponed this summer, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. So Miss Nija Howard, a big shout out to her from Young Men Strong LLC. I'm going to be working with her on my column this fall for Thoughts Magazine. I had to move some things around and make some adjustments this summer, but I'm back in action. So be on the lookout for my column, this fall with Thoughts Magazine. So Miss Nija Howard, she's been a guest on my show a couple of times. She's the single moms coach. So she's a big advocate for Young Men Strong LLC, which is her organization, it's her brand, it's her business. She's going to be working with me on my column in Thoughts Magazine, so be on the lookout for that this fall. I've written great material that I can't wait to share with you guys about several topics that I have in mind. I also want to encourage you all to just be on the lookout for another edition of The Beauty in Us. I'm working on volume 4, so I'm hard at work on my 4th installment of my book series, so I just want to just put it out there and let you all know. And I wish you all the best as we enter into this fall season, and as we put on our jackets and put on our coats and get ready for this cold weather, as the leaves change and as the weather changes. I just want you all to be mindful that, we are all still in this together in the midst of the pandemic. So don't ever feel like your voice doesn't matter. Don't ever feel like you're alone. Don't ever feel as though nobody cares, because people do. I encourage everybody to reach out to their family members and friends for support. There are people that are still in a state of isolation and people who are still struggling during these difficult times. So I encourage you to reach out to them and talk to them and let them know that you love them and care about them. And we are all going to get through this together if we continue to stand hand in hand. So, I'm also blessed to say that, I'm great. It's great that because my health is back in action. I've been struggling with some health related issues for the past year, as you all may know, since around this time last year. Having a disability, a blood disorder, anemia, is something that I've adjusted to and that I'm definitely putting at the forefront of everything. My health, I'm putting my health first. And I know that with that, it's going to move me forward. So I thank you all again for listening. make an appointment to meet me back here at 6 p.m. on the Beauty in Us Radio, right here on Awesome God Radio on September 28th, 2021. This is Nelson E. Brown, and I will see you all next week. And I hope you all enjoy your fall day tomorrow, the first official day of the fall season. Stay safe. Continue to stay safe, you guys. Get vaccinated, wear your mask, and continue to be your best person that you can be.